Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanamitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Saranyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nande Namataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopala Go. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they're honored all over the 3 worlds and are worth taking shelter of because they're absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Kṛṣṇa. This is Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Devotion, and it is presented as a summary study entitled Rupa Goswami's bhakti-rasa Sindhu, which translates as the Nectar of Devotion, and it is presented as a summary study by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Kṛṣṇa Consciousness. And this is chapter 11, Aspects of Transcendental Service. In the opinion of the karmis, fruitive workers, offering the results of karma is called servitorship. But, according to Vaishnava acharyas like Rupa Goswami, servitorship means to be constantly engaged in some kind of service to the Lord. In the Skanda Purana, it is said that those who are attached to ritualistic activities, the 4 orders of life and the 4 orders of spiritual life, are considered devotees. But when devotees are actually engaged in offering service to the Lord directly, these must be bhagavatas, or pure devotees. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities or prescribed duties, according to the 4 orders of social and spiritual life, are not actually pure devotees. But still, because they're offering the results to the Lord, they're accepted as devotees. When one has no such desire, but acts spontaneously out of love of God, such a person must be accepted as a pure devotee. The conditioned souls who have come into contact with the material world are all more or less desirous of lording it over material nature. The system of varnashram and the prescribed duties under the system are so designed that the conditioned soul may enjoy in the material world according to his desire for sense gratification, and at the same time gradually become elevated to spiritual understanding. Under these prescribed duties of varna and ashram, there are many activities which belong to devotional service in Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Those devotees who are householders accept Vedic ritualistic performances as well as prescribed duties of devotional service, because both are meant for satisfying Kṛṣṇa. When householder devotees perform some Vedic ritualistic duties, they do so to satisfy Kṛṣṇa. As we have previously discussed, any activity aimed at satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead is considered devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami describes one who is fit for becoming engaged in devotional service. He says that persons who are neophytes and who have developed a little love of Godhead are not interested in activities of sense gratification in proportion to their devotion. But if there is still some attraction for sense-gratifying activities, then the result of such activities should be offered to Kṛṣṇa. This is also called engagement in the service of the Lord, with the Lord as the master and the worker as the servant. In the Naradiya Purana, there's a statement of how this servitorship is transcendental. It is said that there is a person who is constantly engaged in devotional service by body, mind, and words, or even a person who is not practically engaged but is simply desiring to be so, is considered to be liberated. Devotional service in friendship can be divided into two categories. The first is to act as the confidential servant of the Lord, and the other is to act as the well-wisher of the Lord. The devotee who has confidence in devotional service to the Lord systematically follows the rules and regulations with the faith that he will achieve the platform of transcendental life. The second type of devotional friendship is to become a well-wisher of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord accepts a preacher as the most dear servant. Anyone who is preaching the confidential message of the Gita to the people in general is so dear to Kṛṣṇa that no one can be equal with him in human society. In the Mahabharata, Draupadi says, "My dear Govinda, your promise is that your devotee can never be vanquished. I believe in that statement, and therefore in all kinds of tribulations I simply remember your promise, and thus I live." The purport is that Draupadi and her 5 husbands, the Pandavas, were put into severe tribulation by their cousin brother Duryodhana, as well as by others. The tribulations were so severe that even Bhishmadev, who was both a lifelong brahmachari and a great warrior, would sometimes shed tears thinking of them. He was always surprised that, although the Pandavas were so righteous, and Draupadi practically the goddess of fortune, and although Kṛṣṇa was their friend, still they had to undergo such severe tribulations. Though their tribulations were not ordinary, still Draupadi was not discouraged. She knew that because Kṛṣṇa was their friend, ultimately they would be saved. A similar statement is there in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Havi, the son of King Rishabha, addresses Maharaj Nimi. "My dear king, a person who never deviates even for a moment from engagement in the service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Person, engagement which is sought after even by great demigods like Indra, with firm conviction that there is nothing more worshipable or desirable than this, is called first-class devotee." Sri Rupa Goswami says that a neophyte devotee who has simply developed a slight love of Godhead is certainly a prospective candidate for devotional service. When he becomes firmly fixed in such devotional service, that assured status becomes a confidential part of his devotional service. Sometimes it's found that a pure devotee lies down in the temple of the Lord in order to serve him as a confidential friend. Such friendly behavior of a devotee may be accepted as raganuga, or spontaneous. Although, according to regulative principles, no one can lie down in the temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spontaneous love of Godhead can be grouped under devotional service and friendship. Regarding complete self-surrender, there's a nice description in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, where the Lord says, "A person who has completely surrendered unto me and has completely given up all other activities is protected by me personally, both in this life and in the next." In other words, I wish to help him become more and more advanced in spiritual life, Such a person is to be understood as already having achieved Sharshti, having equal opulences with the Supreme. It's also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that as soon as a person surrenders unto the lotus feet of Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa takes charge of him and gives him a guarantee of protection from all sinful reactions. He also instructs him from within, so the devotee may very quickly make advancement towards spiritual perfection. This self-surrender is called Atma-nivedana. According to different authorities, self is differently defined. Self is sometimes considered to refer to the spirit self or the soul, and self is sometimes considered to refer to the mind or to the body. Full self-surrender, therefore, means not only surrendering oneself as a spirit soul, but also surrendering one's mind and body to the service of the Lord. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung a nice song in this connection. While offering himself as a fully surrendered soul, he says, "My mind, my household affairs, my body, whatever is in my possession, my dear Lord, I offer to you for your service. Now you can do with them as you like. You're the supreme possessor of everything, so if you like, you can kill me, or if you like, you can give me protection. All authority belongs to you. I have nothing to claim as my own." Sri Jamunacharya, in his prayers to the Lord, has expressed a similar idea in the following words. "My dear Lord, I may be living within some body as a human being or as a demigod, but whatever mode of life, I do not mind, because these bodies are simple byproducts of the three modes of material nature, and I, who am in possession of these bodies, am surrendering myself to you." In the Hari Bhakti Viveka, there's a statement regarding how one can offer his body in self-surrender. There the devotee says, "My dear Lord, as a sold-out animal has no need to think about his maintenance and sustenance, so because I've given up my body and soul unto you, I'm no longer concerned with my maintenance and sustenance." In other words, one should not bother about his personal or family maintenance or sustenance. If one is actually surrendered in body and soul, he should always remember that his only concern is to be engaged in the service of the Lord. Sri Rupa Goswami says that devotional service in friendship, devotional service and self-surrender are two difficult processes. Therefore, such relationships with the Lord can very rarely be seen. Only for the advanced devotees are these two processes easily executed. The purport is that it's very rare to see surrender which is mixed with sincere ecstatic devotion. One must give himself completely to the will of the Lord. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Kṛṣṇa tells Uddhava, "My dear friend, if someone offers me the best thing in his possession, or anything which is very pleasing to him, he'll be eternally benefited." In the Narada Pancharatra, there's a statement of how one can act in all spheres of life for the satisfaction of the Lord. It is stated there that a person who is actually in devotional service must be engaged in all kinds of activities, those prescribed in the revealed scripture, and also those which are accepted for livelihood. In other words, a devotee should engage himself not only in prescribed duties of devotional service, which are mentioned in revealed scriptures, but he should also perform the duties of his practical life in Krishna consciousness. For example, a devotee who has a great establishment or factory may offer the fruits of such material possession for the service of the Lord. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, there is the following statement about self-surrender. "My dear Lord, a person who has surrendered himself unto you is in firm conviction that he's yours, and actually acts in that way by his body, mind, and words, can actually relish transcendental bliss." In the Shringa Purana, Lord Nrsingadev says, "Anyone who prays unto me and takes shelter from me becomes my ward, and I protect him always from all sorts of calamities." In the Skanda Purana, there's a statement eulogizing the Tulsi tree as follows. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Tulsi tree, which can immediately vanquish volumes of sinful activities. Simply by seeing or touching this tree, one can become relieved from all distresses and diseases. Simply by offering obeisances to and pouring water on Tulsi tree, one can become freed from the fear of being sent to the court of Yamaraj, the king of death who punishes the sinful. If someone sows a Tulsi tree somewhere, certainly he becomes devoted to Lord Kṛṣṇa, and when the Tulsi leaves are offered in devotion at the lotus feet of the Kṛṣṇa, there is the full development of love of Godhead. In India, every Hindu, even those not belonging to Vaishnava group, takes special care of the Tulsi tree. Even in great cities, where it is very difficult to keep a Tulsi tree, people are to be found very carefully keeping this plant. They water it, offer obeisances to it, because worship of the Tulsi tree is very important in devotional service. In the Skanda Purana, there's another statement about Tulsi as follows. Tulsi is auspicious in all respects, simply by seeing, simply by touching, simply by remembering, and simply by praying to, simply by bowing down before, and simply by hearing about, or simply by sowing this tree. There is always all auspiciousness. Anyone who comes in touch with the Tulsi tree in the above-mentioned ways lives eternally in the Vaikuntha world.